This is Bringing the World to Your Table. I'm Abby Gray, chef, curious traveler, and aspiring cookbook author.
And I'm Megan BUTOW, also a curious traveler with a legal background. And today we're here to talk about Portugal.
Yay!
Yeah. Now, Portugal is a country of many things: medieval castles, cobblestone villages, captivating cuisine, pristine beaches, just so many things to talk about.
Amazing street art.
Amazing street art, yes. Yeah. But specifically today, we're going to talk about the capital city, Lisbon.
And also, Bentley is so interested in Lisbon that he's joined us on the couch today.
So exciting. Now, Lisbon has a lot of art, architecture, food,
Neighborhoods, cool neighborhoods,
right?
Yeah, like Boston.
Yeah. So to start off our show, we're going to have a couple mystery questions.
Okay.
And hopefully throughout the show, have your ears perked and you'll be able to
get the answers.
That's right.
Or figure it out. So one of the first ones is a culinary question.
That's right.
And what is a famous dish or dessert, let's say, made by the monks in Belém, or for the monastery in Belém, the monks in Belém, and it is also considered one of the top 50 dishes in the world.
Ooh, well, I can't wait to find out.
I know, and after we made some samples a few days ago to test it out for the show, and after eating several, I can tell you, I get it.
And I have another question about sort of Portugal and its history, and that is, what famous Portuguese duke was instrumental and a central figure in Portuguese history of maritime exploration and navigation? So that's kind of that has sort of a big impact on the Portugal we know and love today.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. So you'll get those answers later in the show, or maybe you can figure them out.
Right along the way.
So today, well, first of all, we always like to talk about how do we get there, right?
That's right.
Okay. And you went this summer with your family.
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I think, as we've said before, you can always take a boat, but that might be the slower way to get there.
Big cruise ship industry, though.
Right. It is a port city, Lisbon, so there are a lot of cruise ships docked there, but I think what we would recommend is flying.
Yes.
And there are many flights that go right into Lisbon. There's Lisbon International Airport, and once you get there, then it's easy to either get into Lisbon, or if you want to explore the rest of the country, you can drive.
There are direct flights from Boston.
Right. Yeah. Or you connect through another, like I think we've connected through other European.
Oh yeah. I mean, once you're in Europe, you can always go
hop, skip,
and jump.
And then once you're there, it's easy to get around via automobile. There's a Portuguese rail system, which is really nice and smooth way of traveling.
How far out of the city is the airport?
Oh, about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's doable.
Yep. And car services are also actually very reasonable to use there. Okay. And taxis are all great safe ways of traveling.
Okay, and so then you and I talked a little bit about what do we wear when we get there.
Right. What are we packing? Now, well, like I said, so Lisbon and Portugal is coastal. It's bordered on one side by Spain, and it's at the western part of the Iberian Peninsula. So, and Lisbon is also surrounded by beautiful beaches. So it kind of
bathing suit,
right? Bathing suit,
towel.
So if you're planning on hitting the beaches, and we'd probably we'd recommend like middle of the summer. It can be quite warm in Portugal. Or Abby and I also like to do a lot of our traveling kind of on shoulder seasons.
Yeah, May and September.
Yeah.
The one thing is that we talk about, to let you all know too, it's kind of hard depending on when your kids get out of school if you're traveling with your children. But the European kids get out of school middle of July. So if you go to the countries that we take you to in, say, the beginning of June up until kind of July 15th, it's a little less crowded.
Right. It's not the height.
Less expensive.
Yeah, and not the height of the tourist season.
Europe goes to Europe in August.
Yes.
They travel. So it just makes it a little bit easier to get around.
Exactly.
How do you get around the city?
Yeah, so to get around the city, they have these trams because the streets are quite narrow and quite hilly. It's kind of like sort of the older-fashioned looking trolley cars. And there is a very popular, it's called the number 28 tram, which is really popular in Lisbon because it sort of hits the different neighborhoods and the main sites. However, something I like to recommend is that, the native or the people who live in Lisbon really do rely on this public transportation to get to work, to school, run their
tram.
errands, the trams, and especially people in those neighborhoods, the number 28 tram, and it can get quite crowded because tourists.
Is there any underground?
There is not an underground.
Okay.
So instead, I would recommend, although it is a little bit more expensive, they have a touristic tram, which is an old historic tram that they've refurbished.
Oh,
and so it's
probably similar to San Francisco.
Yeah, and it is more expensive. But when you do buy a ticket for the touristic tram, it does allow you to travel on the public transportation as well. So you could use it on, like, say, if some that are funiculars, on other just trams around the city.
Okay, so before we also get to the neighborhoods that you went to on this tram, we should tell you that Portugal is safe. Yeah. It's not there's not a dangerous destination. However, you do have to be careful of pickpockets. And you mentioned the segue there was they often are on the trams. Because
So like any big city, I think, there are
careful.
Hold on to your belongings, know where they are. Don't leave them unattended. But because these trams, they do everybody really packs and squeezes in like sardines.
And Americans notoriously are on their phone and have the bag on the back. Not to throw us under the bus, but we all kind of do it. We're all very free with our stuff. Right? And you can always check the U.S. State Department website, which I think is statedepartment.gov, and see if there are any alerts for that area of the world. It would probably not be one.
Yeah, which is just a good idea in general.
Yeah, in general, before you travel anywhere. Yeah. So I think we should go into the neighborhoods of Lisbon today. And since you were just there, you're the person to tell us.
So Lisbon is known for its different neighborhoods. And they say, looking out over Lisbon, you see the sort of 7 hilltops. And that's a great way to sort of distinguish different neighborhoods.
And what one did you stay in?
So we stayed in Barrio Alto.
Okay. Was that the one? Is that where you look down and you see the other neighborhoods?
Yes, but the Barrio Alto tends to be, it's kind of in the upper, and it's known for restaurants, clubs, fado music, fete.
What's fado music?
Fado music is kind of this like soulful music, generally performed by one performer, one singer with like a guitar. And it's just this really sort of... soulful music, sort of descriptive of.
Calls you to the area kind of thing?
Yeah, so that's the Barrio Alto. So people tend to go there in the evening.
Okay.
That's where they go to hang out and party. During the day, it can be quite quiet, but it does have lovely little cafes or little shops kind of with like your more local shopkeepers.
Do the Portuguese take a siesta?
Some of the shops might close. A couple of them we ran into, some of the older like booksellers or antique markets, and the Barrio Alto has some of these antique stores as it goes down towards the Shadow District. But
and I found now in Europe, in the touristic areas, they do stay open because they don't want to really leave money on the table. Right. But if you go into some of the little towns in Portugal, they might close.
Yeah. Okay. So from there, you'd kind of go west a little bit to Chiado, and there are some of your other higher end stores. And there's also a famous coffee shop, Brasileria, I believe, and it's kind of known where some of the Portuguese literary figures would hang out, not unlike other European destinations that we've gone to. It was kind of a meeting place, and so it's still very popular today for people to go and get an espresso. So we ate one night in the kind of Chiado area, and at a Pasticos restaurant, which is also
kind of a secret about that.
Yeah. So it's kind of your tapas style food, small plates, a lot of fresh, seasonal, local ingredients. And when you're looking for a restaurant
is the secret.
Portugal and Lisbon, is that the Portuguese word for the tapas, if you will, is the pasticos. And so oftentimes what they say is that if you want an authentic Portuguese restaurant, you want one that refers to the pasticos versus tapas, because tapas is a more touristic word. They assume people are more familiar with that word, and so more touristic restaurants will use that terminology.
And we always tell people to always try to get a little bit out of a real touristic area or a monument or something that is in your guidebook, because they're going to charge you more, and it's not typically as good a food. Maybe that could be unfair in some places, but it's usually the rule. So tell us about the art scene a little bit, because you brought back some art of the tram, which is gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So then you can go into the Alfama area. Oh, but before we go there, in the Chiato area, there's this amazing church. So that's kind of an art. Yeah. And so it's the Sal Roque Church, and it was actually built in the 1500s in Rome.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Stained glass windows.
Yeah. So in Rome, and it was blessed by the Pope. And then in the mid 1700s.
Oh, wait, this was the one you told me about that was brought piece by piece.
Yeah. So in the mid 1700s, it was brought from Italy to Lisbon, and they reassembled and built it there. And now, unfortunately, Lisbon had an earthquake in about 1755. Yes. And a lot of the buildings were demolished. But this church managed to stand the test of time. And it's very sort of plain on the outside, but inside it's extremely ornate. But
well, the windows.
Stained glass and the windows.
The stained glass windows are.
And sort of the intricacies of the building. So that's definitely worth checking out. So kind of continuing along that, the Alfama neighborhood is known as kind of the Moorish section. So you have a lot of those really beautiful tiles and kind of that Moorish architecture. Unfortunately, again, some of it was decimated by the earthquake, but it is still just, a really lovely area to wander about in.
Some of these tiles, right?
Yeah. That's kind of the streets, and then even more so some of the colorful tiles.
Streets.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. So the streets and sidewalks. So
again, look at that.
comes into your sort of sturdy shoes because they can get a little slick.
So what was your favorite neighborhood, do you think?
Well, so
did you have one? Or we haven't gotten to
we haven't gone to the end yet. Okay. So and this one's really important for our viewers out there, is that you can take a tram there. It's considered probably like a suburb of Lisbon, but it's where the great Geronimo Monastery is. And monks started making this absolutely amazing pastry called pastel de natas, and they made them in the monastery and started making them. And from there's a bakery in Belém, the Pasties de Belém, and they, in the I think around 1837, started making these pastries and selling them. And to this day, pastel de natas are very popular throughout Portugal as kind of a dessert / accompaniment to your espresso. It really is a staple, and we'll be making them.
But what's nice too is you can make them with your family.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
With her kids, I've made them too many times already, just for the heck of it, which is fun. And so people, when they're visiting, Lisbon, kind of see it as this pilgrimage. So they go out to this bakery. I mean, it's not that far, but in fact, there's so many great foods in Portugal. You brought back a few that our viewers, I don't know. My daughter won't like this, but I like cooking with it. It's giant squid stew. Yes, which is interesting in a tin.
Right.
So because giant squid. There's only one piece of giant squid in there. But tell us about this.
So they love they often use these kind of tinned. I also brought back a sardines,
which my dad used to force on us as children.
So they use a lot of tinned fish in their kind of day-to-day food. So it's very popular. You said now they've become sort of really popular things to if you're there on vacation, you kind of bring them back. They have stores just of tinned fish. So you can go to these lovely stores where they're beautifully wrapped and they tie them, in the packaging, or you can also just go to a grocery store, as Abby and I like to do on our trips frequently. And
that's such a great tip. We go to a local grocery store and throw a lot of stuff into the extra bag because it is so fun to get the spices and you'll get them for much cheaper.
That's right. So kind of back to Belém a little bit. Belém is sort of known as the land of museums. And so it also has some monuments to kind of that acknowledges and pays homage to kind of Portugal's history of world discovery and world exploration and navigation. So it has
such a pivotal place in the world.
During the Age of Discoveries. So it has a museum that's run by the Maritime, but it also has the Tower of Belém, which was, it would look out over as these explorers would go off to their great world adventures. And then there's also a newer monument there, which is the Monument of World Discovery, and it's this beautiful monument that kind of has all these carved figures that played really big parts. It looks like a big bow of a ship, and it has all these figures, and I think at the head is Henry the Navigator. And so Henry the Navigator was really an instrumental figure in sort of this age of discovery. So, should we head into the kitchen?
Yeah, so today we're going to make pasta donatas, which are the treats made by the monks of Belém. And then we're going to make
a pastico, a clam dish. Which was frequently, I saw on
Bahala clams. I couldn't think of it there for a minute.
Which we found on a lot of menus. It's clams just really simply cooked in kind of some olive oil, some garlic. This one has a little cilantro to finish it.
Yeah, and so what's interesting too, which I was just thinking of, is a lot of the recipes by country feature ingredients in the tapas that are important to the country. So olive oil is important to the country because I noticed in the book too, a lot of that's their fat.
Right.
You know, whereas butter is to France as olive oil is to Portugal.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll show you that.
Yeah, and I think another really interesting, I think, part of the cuisine was that they talk about how Portuguese cuisine is sort of this marriage of sort of peasant type cooking food with the ingredients, spices that they got from kind of this world navigation and world trade routes that they discovered. So it's
they were right in the middle of it because you get all the you get Arabic spices and you know Moroccan spices and Spanish spices and right in that trade.
Yeah. So it's a really interesting combination.
Yeah.
That's sort of put together. So
all right, so let's go cook.
Okay. Great.
All right, we'll see you in the kitchen. Welcome to the cooking portion of our show. Today we're going to make pastel donatas, which are basically custard tarts, and Megan and her family experienced them in Portugal this summer. Yeah, tell me a little bit about them while I get the pastry dough going.
Well, great. Well, they're one of our favorite treats that we had while we were in Portugal. And the interesting thing about these is that oftentimes they're not just eaten for dessert, but more of like a snack you would have with your coffee, with your bica, your espresso. So these were some of my 11-year-old's favorite, and they're also listed on one of the top 50 things that you must eat in the world. I see you're starting to roll out the dough here.
I am. So I'm using, just so you all know, I'm using a puff pastry dough. And here's the thing. You can make your own puff pastry dough, but most of us don't. There's chef-made puff pastry dough, but there's also in your freezer at your local grocery store. Buy puff pastry dough. Yeah. There's a difference between phyllo dough and pie dough. It's not the same. You want the puff pastry because you want the layers of butter.
Yeah, and I found it in all different stores, and you want to make sure you get the sheets, right? Not just the small ones.
You want to get the sheets.
Yeah.
The one thing I think you could get for this would be, which would be yummy, which would be the shells. And they would puff up, and then they would just be deeper custard. Okay. So it maybe be our take on it. Okay. But pretty delicious. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember them from when we were little, and they used to have the tops of the shells, and you could put that on the top of the pastry with the cinnamon. Oh. So just a little Abby and Megan additive to that. So what we're going to do right now is we are going to take a quick break from our puff pastry, and we are going to, what we want to do is boil the milk with the egg yolks, and I just left these just to show you 6 egg yolks. So I just whisk them a bit, okay, and I'm going to whisk them into the milk that is not boiling yet, because if you do that, you will have scrambled eggs.
Right.
So Megan, I actually need you to stand here and whisk that until it boils. You have to keep it in motion, or you'll just get really creamy scrambled eggs. And it says 1 lemon peel, but what I do is, I'm going to put a few in because I think lemon is just absolutely one of the best flavors in the whole world.
Oh, and it smells so good.
Doesn't that smell so good already? So fresh lemon, 6 egg yolks, a cup of cream, 1/5 of a cup of milk, a cup of sugar, a lemon peel, and a teaspoon of cornstarch.
And you want to use the lemon peel, not just like a zest, because you do remove that, right?
You do remove it. We're going to take it out with tongs. And with my sugar over here, I'm going to put the cornstarch in the sugar.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And we're just going to add the sugar and the cornstarch.
Okay, so you add that once you take it off the heat.
You add that once you take it off the heat. And it also will cool it down. It helps to cool it down.
Oh, right.
So I just put them into the tin. Like you could see like this, like a muffin tin. And I pull up the dough because it's buttery. to the edge. So we are going to use I have one, my spatula.
Should I pour while you,
Well,
are you gonna?
You hold that for me, okay? And what we want to do is, I'm straining it because it got a little eggy, but we can save it. We don't need to redo the batter. And now I'm going to put it through this sieve because it's going to make really fine custard.
And it smells delicious. Just a very
very easy.
Sweet,
it catches the
light.
lemon peel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they're great.
And then you can get, this is what you do with anything where you want a smoother custard puree. If you make pea puree, we're getting out of our zone here. That's not Portuguese, but so for these custard tarts, we will just do that, and you see how pretty and smooth the custard is. All right, so now I just have a little ladle. You should have different size ladles, by the way, because when you're making desserts, the big ladles, you kind of get one ladle full is enough for these.
And how much would you say is, like, what would be the volume of the liquid that you're putting into each one? Like, what is the size of that ladle?
Are you getting science on me? It's
like
a smaller ladle.
Like a quarter, and it's not half a cup.
No, no.
Like if you did
quarter cup.
Quarter cup,
Quarter cup, yeah. But I'm just sprinkling a little bit of cinnamon on the tops. They only take 10 minutes to bake.
Yeah.
We're going to put a little dusting sugar on them.
Oh, perfect.
I don't do that beforehand because it'll sink to the bottom. And then it can also, sugar burns custard.
Right.
So it comes out much darker than you want. Okay.
Great.
All right, so I am just going to put these in the oven, bottom oven. And we'll put them in for 8 minutes to start, and then we'll see what they look like. Okay, so they're done.
Okay. They look good.
So we are, while they are hot though, the one thing I am going to do is we are going to sprinkle a little sugar.
Okay. While they're still warm.
While they're still warm.
Okay.
You sprinkle it from on high because you want it to bounce. You actually don't want it sinking down into the middle. But just to show you what they look like, they come out pretty perfect in terms of color. Yeah. Gorgeous brown on the bottom. You can see how beautiful the lemon custard is.
Yeah. Right.
Would you like to taste one of these?
Sure, I would love to.
All right.
Beautiful.
All right, here we go. See what they taste like. So good. It's really good. So next we're going to do some clams.
Yes. Which are, it's a recipe that's commonly used when you're having some pasticos in Portugal, which is the Portuguese word for something like tapas. Oh, so I see. So these, we have some Massachusetts clams.
Yes,
here.
we have some Massachusetts clams. So we chose this recipe because we're in Massachusetts and clams are clams.
Right.
They're here. Right. They're bountiful.
Yep.
I've been soaking them. Now you don't have to soak them for 2 hours. These are pretty clean. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you had
dug them,
you would probably soak them in very, very cold water for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I always check them. Like that one is
questionable.
I think it's okay. So if it closes again, sometimes they open a smidge, like a teeny bit. If it really opens, toss it.
Yeah.
Okay. If it doesn't open when we make this dish, don't eat it.
Right.
It will be a life changer.
Yeah.
Okay. So now.
Good rule for shellfish.
Yeah, mussels.
Consuming. Yeah.
Clams, shellfish. But we're gonna start with just a little bit of olive oil in the pan. Now they only say 2 tablespoons. I use a lot more than 2 tablespoons. Yeah. So we have 2 pounds of live clams, but I said we're using 3. 2 garlic cloves minced. 1 bunch of fresh cilantro chopped. 2 tablespoons of olive oil and lemon juice. So I have, and she brought this adorable cookbook back. She did not bring me one, but she brought it back for herself, and I love it.
That's how I make sure Abby keeps calling me.
I know.
I'm like,
well,
I've got the recipe book, so.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, she'll bring it over. We'll cook.
Then bring it back.
Then bring it back. All right. I also put a little salt in.
Oh, into the pan with the olive oil.
I do a little bit. Just for fun. And I add a little bit more lemon than it calls for because one, I think it's super pretty when we have the finished dish. And yesterday I used some lemons for something else, so I want to use the juice. I don't waste anything. So we are just going to not zest. We're going to put. Don't worry. So now I'm going to take my clams. All right, so you see there's not tons of liquid in there. You'll be amazed how these guys open up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, without tons of liquid. I think people expect a lot of wine and butter and you don't need it. But what we do need is I'm going to grab some garlic. We're going to put it in the clams. So we're not going to really fuss with these too much. I'm going to add a little bit more lemon.
Okay.
I think that clams need a little bit more juice than this recipe calls for.
Okay.
But we're also going to put a lid on and it's going to steam them open. Here's my big lid.
Well, these smell delicious, I have to say.
This is for like a 50-gallon pan that I use, or whatever, big
or
pan.
Or your saucepan with
my
clams.
saucepan when I make tons of whatever I'm doing. So I think we'll wait like 3 or 4 minutes, okay?
Now, as the clams cook, because you said this recipe has a little bit less liquid than you would normally use. Do the clams release liquid?
Yeah, I think the liquid comes out because they're been in water.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is a little
bit
that
you get a little bit
get
of that clam juice in with the lemon and the
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm putting in some cilantro.
Yum.
Just because you want that. Whenever you add anything to heat, it releases flavor.
Okay. So like a fresh herb, like the cilantro.
So we'll finish it off with some cilantro too, but when you put some in with the pan, it releases flavor and you get the cilantro, the lemon, the clam juice, the olive oil, and then I put a little salt. Because I can't help myself, really. All right, so what I'm going to do is if you look in here, all these open beautifully, right?
Yeah.
I almost want to take a picture of them myself. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we are going to, this isn't fancy, and I would serve this maybe with some bread. So for that sauce, we can grab some bread in a minute. But they're so beautiful the way they are that I'm kind of going to plate them that way. So there's a gorgeous broth that we made. You could also keep this as a little base to do some clam chowder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, actually that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah,
okay, and we're just going to put some
more
cilantro on top. And why don't we just squeeze a little bit more lemon. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. We love these. Okay, we will see.
So good.
These are so delicious. Okay, so the lemon really came through. And they're salty. I didn't put enough salt in to make them salty. They're from salt water, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Very good.
And you can taste that cilantro. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah.
And we love bringing the world to your table. I'm Abby Gray.
And I'm Megan BUTOW.
Have a great week.
Here's to next time.